let me tell you a little secret. You take Ron Paul, spell it right, uppercase R, uppercase P, everything else lowercase, print it out, nice and big, on a piece of paper. Take that piece of paper, hold it up to a mirror, and you tell me what that looks like at first glance.
It's not a very good word. I'll tell you that much. It was really funny when we were starting this and we were trying things out. We learned something new. I think we learned
something about ourselves.
We learned something about ourselves.
What we see at first glance when you spell Ron Paul backwards in a mirror.
So as you can guess, today we're going to be talking about Ron Paul, and we're going to be talking about his campaign, and we decided to choose Ron Paul first. Because we decided to poll all of the internet and find out among the millions of people what the number one topic was, and obviously it was Ron Paul because...
No, hold on. It was Ron Paul on the internet.
Right.
So we had to, we don't have lots and lots of money to call people on the phone and tell them who to vote for. So we had to go to Google Trends and see which was the most popular. And Ron Paul is number one, Barack Obama's number two, and I think Iran was number 3, and the economy was number 4, and so on and so forth. So
I was being a little facetious there. I was being a little bit silly because obviously we're not going to be able to poll millions of people because we're not one of the big newscast companies, and neither of us are millionaires. Not yet anyway. Hopefully he may be some guy. But anyway.
All right. Here's the deal. I actually like a lot of Ron Paul's stances. I like his stance on our foreign policy, and I really like his stance on what he thinks the president should do. He looks at the presidency as the executive office, how it was designed in the Constitution, where the Congress gets together and makes the laws, and the president's job is more or less to enforce those laws. He does a couple things like pick judges and things like that, and he's also more or less our face on foreign policy for 4 years. And he look right now. It seems the presidency even now with the Bush administration, the Clinton administration, the Bush administration before that one, and on and on and on, all the way back to at least the 50s, as far back as I've really looked. The presidency over time has become more or less a dictator for 4 years, where the president gets to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Now, granted, it still looks like a democracy because he works with Congress and so on, but really it seems like whoever's president for 4 years gets to say this is how things are going to happen.
I think that's Ron Paul's appeal. I think his appeal to the masses and why he's getting Democrats and why he's getting libertarians and why he's getting certain type of Republican or libertarian leaning in any of those parties or even libertarian leaning independents is because most people have those ideals. Most people feel that the presidency should have the checks and balances that they've lost. Most people do not agree with the Iraq War, and most people don't agree with what's happened. And so when you have somebody like Ron Paul, I don't necessarily they agree with the personality of Ron Paul, but I do believe.
Yeah, I will give him that. He does not. I mean, I like a lot of his ideas. I don't like all of them, but I like a lot of his ideas. But he does not come off as charismatic or endearing.
No. I think it's the ideas that's being sold, and I think that's why he's attractive. But it also is his personality and his charisma is what's keeping him back in the debates. The issues that he's strongest on, he doesn't focus on.
Yeah, his ideas are great, but when he presents them, he sounds like a loon.
He does.
But I like him. I like his ideas, and I think he would be a good leader. However, he really needs to work on looking presidential because, unfortunately, people don't vote the issues. People don't research the issues. They don't look up and say, what does this guy think about gun policy? What does this guy think about health care? What does this person think about Social Security or foreign policy? They don't look at that. You know what they look at? I'll tell you what. I'll give you one guess.
Their hair?
Okay, I'll give you 2 guesses. No, you're right.
Yeah, right.
Because they look at whether or not they're pretty, whether or not they look presidential.
Yeah.
I was in the airport on Thursday, okay, and these people are talking about the presidents and who they like, who they don't like, and so I'm like, oh, this will be interesting. So I kind of listened to them, and you know what they didn't mention. Policies, they didn't mention issues, they didn't mention anything that you would think that they were really looking at the politics. All they were talking about was who looked the best. And they said Romney looked the most presidential, and they were making fun of Giuliani because of the way he licks his lips a lot.
Well,
that's not how you...
But let's be fair to the American public. I think that a look is important to the American public. But I think that if you have the look, but you're a moron, they're not going to like you. I mean, that's. But they also
if you look really good,
but you're an idiot. You're not going to get elected, or you look completely horrible, but you have the best ideas in the world. And even then, you're not going to get elected. And there's exceptions. Like I think a good exception example.
Are you bring up Lincoln?
No, not going to bring up Lincoln. I'm going to bring up, for example, I think that Joe Biden, for example, is a good-looking guy who
really.
Well.
Oh.
Okay. I mean,
I know. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, for a politician, he's not like a Kucinich. Okay. I mean, if you judge the two, but you listen to Biden.
Let me ask you.
It doesn't sound like
who has the best-looking mate of those two?
Oh, well, obviously Kucinich has the best looking mate. I mean, I have to admit that. But
here, just so you know, guys, some girls are into brains. Just letting you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which my wife obviously is. But okay, I mean, obviously not the looks. But back to the point is that you can get somebody who is both intelligent and is good looking, and they're not always going to win. Biden is a good example of that. A good example of somebody who has good ideas but is not good looking and doesn't present himself well is Ron Paul. And many people I've talked to who are for Ron Paul say that they're for Ron Paul because not because of him, but because of like his ideas. And I think that's his biggest flaw. That and his campaign, which is a totally different issue. But like,
we're talking about Ron Paul. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with this campaign?
Well, let's see. He's a libertarian independent, and not
No, hold on. He's
Republican. I mean,
he's been a Republican for 10 years.
Yeah.
So 10 terms as a congressman, which is not short, and he's been Republican forever. And he would say, and I think I agree with him, that he's not the one that changed. He's saying the Republican Party has changed.
But it doesn't matter. If he wanted to win, he should have looked at what was going on this year in the Republican primary, and he could realize that there's a very high chance.
Should he become a Baptist preacher?
No. I'm not saying that. There's a very high chance that this year it could go to convention, and he could have been a big part of that. And at convention, you're going to have the diehard Republicans, the people who are going to agree with him more often than not. And what he should have done is go for libertarian-leaning states rather than fighting in Iowa, which he had no shot in. He spent several $1 million in Iowa. I mean, it was silly. He should have concentrated on New Hampshire.
Yeah.
No, he didn't do that great in New Hampshire Iowa for his money.
He beat Giuliani in Iowa.
But Giuliani didn't even put an ad out there.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he really should have stayed with the libertarian-leaning states where and states where they have open primaries.
All the ones in the West.
All the ones in the West. He would have done well in Utah, Idaho. I think he would have done well in Wyoming, Montana.
No, he did horrible in Wyoming
because he didn't do anything there. That's my point. He didn't. His campaign.
Oh yeah, check this out.
His campaign didn't focus very well on the things that they should have.
Ron Paul's campaign sent out an email a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
And they were talking about how this is after New Hampshire, and they're talking about all the states coming up and how they're going to do it, what they're going to do, what the volunteers could do in Wyoming, what they could do in Nevada, what they could do in Utah, what they could do in Arizona, and on and on and on. And he said to the volunteers, and I live in Utah, all right. I travel a lot, but my home's in Utah. What he said to the volunteers in Utah was, he said, due to the realities of Utah, if you want to help us out, come help us campaign come help us caucus in Nevada. So he more or less told any of his supporters in Utah, that's great and all, but we're never going to win Utah, so don't even try.
Again, his campaign is run in a peaceful way, and I think
that's probably offensive. I think. I mean,
yeah, but I think
I totally see where they're coming from. But every single person that they have talking, their press releases and stuff, they look really young and really inexperienced.
Right.
They look like they're 12. Well, okay, I'm kidding. They're in their 20s.
Yeah, I'm not going to give my political preference away here, but I looked at it and said, look, if I was to run his campaign, this is how
we're going to wrap it up.
We do need to wrap this up, but I really think that they got stuck on idealistic ideas, but didn't focus on them and tried to focus on other things, and that's what lost his campaign. I think if either party looks at what he's doing, the reason that he even had any success is because of those key issues that both Democrats, Republicans, and Independents come together on: Iraq and foreign policy. And if either party wants to be intelligent on it, their presidential candidate, they'll look at why Ron Paul has been so successful as he has.
Long story short, people like his ideas. His supporters like him a lot, but regular people, he scares them because he comes off as kind of kooky. Not because of his ideas necessarily, but because of the way he expresses them and the way he carries himself.
Exactly.
All right.